This situation applies to every single rep in every single industry. If you have a CRM and you get paid a commission, I can guarantee you that at some point in time, you have likely lost out on some commission pay.
Dan, welcome to the podcast. Thanks for joining me.
Chuck, great to be here. Thank you for having me. I'm really looking forward to our time together today.
Well, that may be your first mistake.
No. We're going to have fun today, Chuck.
We are going to have fun together. We've had fun every single time and every minute we've spoken, and this, honestly, it's been a blast. So let's get right to it. TruCommish. This is something for commission, for salespeople, and as I said here, you have this phrase, everyone wins with pay transparency. What does that mean?
So, yeah, I mean, there's some confusion around what pay transparency is. People think that pay transparency means that they can kind of see what their commission check is going to be in a couple of weeks. Mm-hmm. And that's not what I call pay transparency. That's just a one-sided view. Pay transparency to me is that when a rep could spend 12, 18, 24 months trying to close and penetrate a large enterprise account, mm-hmm. when the customer finally agrees to that, they expect to be paid a certain amount on that deal. Mm-hmm. And it could be 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 months later until they're actually paid on it. Mm-hmm. So what I call pay transparency is tracking what the customer agreed to and what the rep expected all the way through implementation, invoicing, and commission payout. And what companies do, they only report on what's invoiced to the customer and then pay you off of that. There's never a reconciliation or explanation of variances when that number changes from what you expected and initially booked. So pay transparency to me is let's track that deal from inception all the way through commission payout, highlight those changes, and explain the variances.
Wow. I mean, you go into a job as a sales rep, and that's sort of a given, right? Is that this is my pay plan, this is my incentive plan, and I'm going to have everything that I need in order to know that I'm getting paid because I'm investing a huge chunk of my life into this. I'm investing in my own private corporation. I can speak for my private corporation. My wife is the CEO. I'm just the vice president, and you're investing this time, and there is a certain level of faith that is required. And you just expect that is going to happen. I mean, how prevalent is this? It seems the way you're growing, it sounds like it's a big problem.
Yeah, this is a problem everywhere. I mean, when I originally started TruCommish, I didn't ever expect to see it be this prevalent or significant. I figured it would be, the VAR industry, which is where I sort of was focusing for decades and helping friends and family with it. High transaction volume, lots of different vendors, complex comp plans, high transaction volumes, and then I would think in maybe some tech and maybe some insurance, maybe some telecom, things like that. I have been pleasantly surprised to find, maybe not so much for the reps, but this situation applies to every single rep in every single industry. If you have a CRM and you get paid a commission, I can guarantee you that at some point in time, you have likely lost out on some commission pay. I can talk, if I've spoken to 1,000 reps over the last couple of years, I can honestly tell you that this issue resonates with 1,000 out of 1,000. It's not 100 out of 100. It's literally 1,000 out of 1,000. And the fact that reps have to rely on blind faith and trust that their pay is right is just wrong. I mean, you work so hard, you make so many sacrifices for your company against your family and your friends and your hobbies and your life. And now when it finally comes time to get that pay, there's no backup. There's nothing that shows it to you. You have to rely on blind faith and trust that it's correct. I couldn't operate in that environment. I am no one who has ever blindly trusted anything. I want to be able to prove how things work. I'd like to understand the assumptions and the methodologies that go into it and how the conclusion was arrived at, not just assume that the conclusion is correct. And I apply this kind of methodology with everything in my life. And when it comes to something as important as your commission pay, which represents a significant portion of your income, which is why you make all these sacrifices to support your family, it should be straightforward and transparent, and it shouldn't be a guessing game, and it shouldn't be like, hey, where's my commission? Or a shell game, like, is it underneath this shell? Wrong.
Well, and that's why sales reps are in this business, right? They're in it for the upside. You're not going to get rich on whatever fixed salary you may have. I mean, if you're 100% commission, first of all, it's a real high risk, potentially real high turnover situation for an employer. But that risk is that much higher. But even for those with a significant fixed compensation, your upside is primarily in your commission. And that's what it's about. Well, I
Yep.
mean, what do they need? What do the reps typically need in order to verify their commission truly? What would they need to have from the employer? So,
So to be able to use TruCommish, they need three things. Okay, they need to have access to their closed won deals out of their CRM, or what we call their bookings information.
hmm
So they can grab that out of their CRM. There's likely a report that already exists. You can
hmm
just run that report. What we need is a unique identifier that our system can cross-reference your two data sets. So your two data sets are your bookings report and your commission statements. So the unique identifier could be things like a job number, work order
hmm
number,
hmm
invoice number, purchase order number, opportunity name, opportunity number, as long as it's identical in both data sets.
hmm
And then, so you can grab that out of your CRM. There's a video within our app that will show you how to create the report within your CRM if it doesn't exist.
hmm
We'll show you how to export it. We'll show you how to import it into our system. You'll do the same thing on the commission side. So it could be an Excel spreadsheet that you're receiving from your accounting department, which
hmm
sadly is still the case very often.
Very
It could
often.
be exporting out of a commission software,
hmm
or it could be a feed out of some other source like
hmm
a QuickBooks or an ERP or what
hmm
have you.
hmm
So you'll cross-reference the data sets. You'll identify the deals that are different than what you expected to be paid on when you initially booked it, and compare it to what you actually were paid on in your commission statement when you were paid on it months and months later.
hmm
The third piece of this is your comp plan.
hmm
And what we've created is a sort of a smart wizard. They'll ask you questions about the structure of your comp plan. You'll answer them with clicks of a button. And our goal here is to replicate your existing comp plan to
hmm
now you can run your data sets and your performance against your comp plan to then calculate the value of the commissions that have been lost based on where you are in your comp plan and the comp plan itself.
That's awesome. And as soon as you said you tuned in on CRM, a little buzzer goes off in my head, and I think about all those sales reps who just want to be run and gun, and they don't have time to spend in their CRM. They just want to keep all that data for themselves. They want to keep the names. They want to keep all the activity for themselves. I don't need that. That's heck with it. And from an employer's perspective, that CRM it helps me with attrition. It helps me to keep in track that I'm doing the right things, that I'm using the right metrics. I got news for you, sales reps. This means that you're going to have to track that opportunity data in good detail. I'm not saying you're going to do excruciating detail. That's between you and your employer. But you've got to have the right detail, and you've got to make sure that it's accurate, because when it comes down to commissions, if you're going to call them out on dollars, you better have your data right. And by the way, if you're doing that, you're being a great sales rep, which makes you that much more desirable to your company and your future employers.
Yeah, that's
So,
a great point that you made right there, Chuck, because this is what the issue is. And this is why I've come up with TruCommish. Reps can suspect that they're not being paid right,
right.
but unless you can actually call out the deal,
Mm-hmm.
unless you can actually call out the variance or the amount that you're owed,
Mm-hmm.
the employer isn't going to do anything for you.
That's
You
right.
got to actually be able to go through. I mean, let's say that you do 90 deals in a quarter, right?
Mm-hmm.
Maybe there's 80 of them that you're paid right on,
Mm-hmm.
and maybe there's 10 that aren't.
Mm-hmm.
You can't sit there and manually cross-reference 90 deals. I mean, it
Mm-hmm.
would take you like literally days to do it. In fact,
Right.
I'll tell you a little story later on this talk today about that exact same situation.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, pay transparency is important for everybody. Like we said, everybody wins with pay transparency.
Mm-hmm.
It shouldn't be a game. Let's all have mutual respect and mutual trust of one
Mm-hmm.
another. We're all adults. The sales leader or the CEO, they know how much money they're going to get paid every day that they put on their pants and go to work every day.
Mm-hmm.
Why is it a guessing game when it comes to sales reps commission pay?
Mm-hmm.
It's wrong. This is a societal issue, Chuck, honestly.
Mm-hmm.
This is a problem that I have been looking at for over 30 years. And I can tell you the problem is getting worse over time, not better.
Mm-hmm.
We need to turn it around.
Mm-hmm. Well, and so often we have what I call the win disease, the we and I need. From an employer's perspective, it's always I need, we need, this is what I want you to do because we need this. I really am in pursuit of this relentless view from the customer's perspective. Whatever the customer is, your employees are a customer. Okay, in a sense, people think about it. Whoever gets paid. Okay, whoever's doing the paying, right? That's the customer. That's what it is, right? You have your customers, your employees, and it's just as difficult. Actually, it's more difficult to lose an employee than it is to lose a customer. It really is, because, I mean, in both cases, the costs to replace are high. Okay. But you already have a good process in place that you're exercising hour in and hour out, minute in and minute out for capturing new customers. You do, don't you? Um, but for employees, it's a lot tougher. We don't hire as often. Okay. It can take just as long, but the startup costs can be much, much higher.
Yep.
And you really need to have that kind of loyalty and really live it as an employer for your sales team. So this brings up a question. So thinking about my previous life, they need to have the data. We're getting, we might be getting Excel spreadsheets. We don't know how accurate the calculations are in the Excel spreadsheets, if they're there at all. And I mean, how prevalent is it that sales sees all the POs? I mean, in a big deal, right? They might see POs, but in my experience, bigger deals we see POs. Is there a lot of examples where they're not seeing that kind of detail that's provided to them?
Yeah, I mean, usually that stuff is captured within the CRM.
Okay.
So they'll be able to see that. Oftentimes they may even be putting it in there. Obviously the finance and accounting department plays a role in that.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't really come across that there's an issue with sort of understanding what the bookings initially are.
Okay.
It's more on the other side of things where,
Mm-hmm.
and sometimes companies are locking down systems where you can't get access to the data, and other times they're not providing you. I've seen commission statements where they're providing you just summary level information. They're not even providing you deal level information.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So I mean that's where the challenges come in,
Yeah.
right?
And in these more complex pay plans, depending on the deal, there may be different terms for the commission, right?
Oh,
This might be this type where you're going to have a different rate. This type we're going to have a different rate, or something to that effect. So,
all right, Chuck, I was going to hold off and telling you this story, but I'm going to tell it to you because you just teed it up for me. In fact, I wasn't even going to tell you this story, but let me give you an example of one of the most complex comp plans that I have ever seen.
Oh, okay? I'm listening.
I've had about literally, I mean, it must be 7 or 8 different reps who have come to me from this publicly traded marketing automation company.
Mm-hmm.
And they have the most complicated comp plan I've ever seen. So not only do they have like 4 or 5 different categories with 3 or 4 different tiers and
Mm-hmm.
different rates and accelerators and all that, they work in a high transaction volume. So
Mm-hmm.
tons of deals every month, right? They get a base rate on every deal. And there are 5 variables that impact that base rate up or down.
Mm-hmm.
Things like payment terms, discounting, length of contract, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then there are 19 sub-variables underneath those 5 variables for a total combination of over 500 unique rates that can be applied per deal in a high transaction volume setting. Both the company and the reps are running blind. It took the commission software company that the company is paying 6 figures for over 4 months to implement the solution.
Mm-hmm.
My CTO replicated the comp plan in 2 weeks, working by himself.
Oh my God.
And we are now finding significant 5-figure commission errors going in both directions, working with just one rep. I cannot emphasize enough, to create complexity just for the sake of complexity hurts everybody.
Mm-hmm.
It in some instances, it almost seems like they're doing this to make it impossible to verify and check your pay.
Mm-hmm.
It's impossible in this scenario. I mean, you may be able to track one deal and follow it through, but again, it's in a high transaction volume setting.
Mm-hmm.
So, you can drive certain rep behavior through compensation structures, and you can achieve your goal, but try to do it in the most simplistic way.
Mm-hmm.
It's not a game to say, wow, look how complex I can make it.
Mm-hmm.
Look what a great model I've made.
Mm-hmm.
It should be easy to understand, easy to communicate. Like if I met you in a bar and someone said, hey, how do you get paid there? I should be able in a matter of about 60 seconds, explain to you how I'm paid.
Mm-hmm.
I can honestly tell you like 60% of the reps I talk to can't do that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And how much time does it take the company on a monthly basis to craft this, manage it? It just drains your overhead expenses. One of the things, a book that truly inspired a lot of my thinking, a lot of my progression in my career, is A Leader's Handbook by Peter Schultes. And in their page, I guess I'm a visual guy. There's a picture of a donkey, and it's a drawing, and he's got a stick with a string and a carrot dangled in front of him, and he's got somebody standing behind him with a stick ready to whack him on the butt. And it's all about the theories of carrots and sticks.
Yes.
And that image tells us one thing. There's one major flaw to the theory of carrots and sticks. There's a jackass in the middle. People aren't stupid. People have a natural work ethic. Now, one might argue that work ethic varies from person to person. Got it. Some people just don't have it. But overwhelmingly, people want to do a good job. And this obsession with wanting to control human behavior on a month-to-month basis, literally a month-to-month basis and more, it just costs far more, not only in terms of direct costs spent managing all this baloney, but also the soft and opportunity costs of ill will and turnover and all these different things and your reputation. And once you have those negative reviews on Glassdoor or Google reviews, or we were talking about one this morning called RepView, it's hard to claw your way back up.
Very true.
The market for employees is just as difficult as it is for the market for customers. In recent years, in a lot of cases, it's been a lot harder.
Yeah.
And you
Especially
really have to take that into account from minute one.
Yep.
Wow. So a rep that uses TruCommish, all right, how do they present this data to their employer? I mean, they're using an app. They're using an online service. How do they present this to their employer?
Yeah. So, I mean, our goal is to provide pay transparency for the sales rep in every setting. It's just the right thing to do. So whether you're an individual rep who comes to us and wants to verify that your company is doing the right thing, or you could be a small and medium business that are using QuickBooks and Excel spreadsheets that are prone to human error and are very time consuming and frustrating. So what's happening is that a lot of reps are coming to us. They're seeing the value of what we provide, the transparency. They love it. And they're now asking to bring us back into their company and meet with their CFO or their accounting team or their sales lead, and seeing that they could bring the solution in-house to resolve these issues and not have this guessing game and this lack of trust and ill will, as you speak of, right? So we're starting to do that with some folks as well right now. I mean, our initial focus and thrust has been to be that advocate for the individual rep. So we've built out that initial direct-to-consumer app. We can apply that same app and offer it as a direct-to-consumer app, but offer it through your company, through as an SMB, or through your company, through an enterprise, as part of a human employee benefits package. It can be offered through your human resources department. Your sales manager could use TruCommish and basically gift each of his reps a free TruCommish account. And then now the independent third-party verification service called TruCommish will verify that all payments are correct in both directions. So this will enormously help with morale and motivation and productivity and key employee retention, and most of all, trust. If I'm an employee and I don't trust my employer and I'm spending all this time, it destroys motivation and productivity. I'm not going to go the extra effort. My company doesn't give me visibility. How do I know that I'm being taken care of? So you know what? You can bring TruCommish in. You can run your deals through our system. And how will that rep feel if they say they did 90 deals in 3 months? How will that rep feel that knowing that an independent third-party verification service called TruCommish has stated that your company has paid you fully and accurately to the penny on every deal that you sold? I would be like, wow, that's amazing.
Yep.
I would be so loyal to this company. I would do the extra effort and go the extra mile and know that all of my extra work and efforts mean something, and I'm paid and rewarded for my work. I mean, it's just it just changes the culture and the perception and the outlook of people, and it's the right thing to do. We're talking about people's money. There's a legal obligation of the employers to pay employees fully and accurately. If an employee comes to you and shows you pay errors, and you acknowledge those errors and don't immediately cut an employee a check, you're exposing yourselves to triple damages in employment litigation. Literally.
Yeah. And now I'm thinking back to the CRM. If you're embracing this transparency and you're embracing TruCommish, you say, what I need from you in order to do this is I need you to go back to this, make sure that you have that data in your CRM so we can make sure that we are fully aligned on our data. One, it benefits the employee for commission. True, I'm certain that there are overpay situations, and the companies are going to come back and seek that reimbursement or deduct it from future commission, but it also gives you this additional benefits as an organization to incentivize you actually using your CRM so you can get proper KPIs and metrics and all that stuff and improve your organization as a whole. So you're hitting it from And from a hiring perspective, you're more attractive. It makes onboarding more meaningful. It creates a devotion to the tools that we should all be embracing, honestly, so we can become better sales organizations and salespeople. And it seems like it's win-win all the way around. And the idea of offering it as a benefit, I mean, one of the new things, you get the PEO, right? You go to these big payroll companies or a professional employers organization, and they offer benefits. Accuracy and commission pays far more than that 5 or 10% discount on your wife's cell phone bill. That might save you $5 or $10 a month, okay? But that pales in comparison to what you're going to win or lose or gain or lose from having this kind of tool available to you. So, I mean, it's win-win-win, right? It's win for them, it's win for you, and honestly, it's win for the CEO of your private corporation.
Well, Chuck, let me give you another quick story right now to just reiterate your point right now.
Love it.
So, I got a DM from a rep.
Mm-hmm.
He appreciated for me all the content that I've been posting out on LinkedIn.
Yep.
He said it's just been invaluable. It's opened my eyes to things that I never knew or didn't know that I could do, and it motivated me to check my pay.
Mm-hmm.
So, he went to download his information from his CRM. He learned that his company actually locks down the CRM. Can you imagine that? He literally creates all of the data that goes into the CRM, but his company limits his ability to extract the same data that he enters into the CRM to download it for him to be able to manually check his own data. So, he has his commission statement. It might have even been a PDF. Maybe it was in a spreadsheet. I'm not exactly sure. I didn't get those details. So he had to manually check his pay. It turns out that his comp plan was relatively simple. He literally could have, in a matter of 5 minutes, answered the comp plan onboard wizard and uploaded his comp plan with no assistance from me on his own.
Mm-hmm.
But he didn't have access to the CRM data.
Mm-hmm.
So he had to manually do it. So he had about 7 months worth of data.
Mm-hmm.
He decided, you know what? I'm going to do this on company time. This is company work. The accounting department's supposed to get it right. Company chooses to lock it down. He spent literally 3 full working days, 24 hours of his time. Now, this guy was a top performer. He is $1 million rep.
Mm-hmm.
So if you look at 40 hours a week, 50 weeks in a year,
Mm-hmm.
2 weeks for vacation, that's $500 an hour that an hour of a rep's time is worth in selling time, in revenue, in gross profit.
Yep.
So this guy literally spent $12,000 of selling time to check his pay.
Mm-hmm.
What he ended up finding was $8,000 in commission errors. So he went back to his company. They reviewed it. They acknowledged the errors. They paid him out his $8K. Oh, by the way, they didn't cut him a manual check, which I shared this information with him, but he was just happy they acknowledged it and was willing to wait. They offered to pay half of it in the next pay cycle and the other half in the following pay cycle. This stuff was due from 3, 4, 5 months ago.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So it should have been paid out immediately that minute.
Mm-hmm.
So the moral of the story here is that everybody wins with pay transparency.
Mm-hmm.
Don't lock down your systems. The reps it's their right to check their pay. It shouldn't be a guessing game.
Mm-hmm.
You should encourage reps to check their pay. You should give them access to the data. If they had not locked down this reps systems, it literally would have taken him from start to finish 15 minutes to identify all of the errors that he spent 24 hours doing.
Mm-hmm.
How do you think that rep feels about his company right now?
Not great.
That they locked down the systems and he spent all this time manually doing this and then found errors?
Mm-hmm.
What kind of trust and loyalty and motivation and morale comes from that situation?
And that is absolutely counter to everything that an employer really needs to strive for. They need to create that culture of trust, loyalty, and cooperation. And so often I talk about opportunity costs. In sales, opportunity cost is very clear because we think in terms of opportunities, sales opportunities. That 24 hours is taking directly away from selling time. And that $12,000 investment that he did, because it wasn't $12,000 to get $8,000, it was $12,000 to open up the eyes to the issue so that the $8,000 doesn't become 16, 24, 32. If I keep doing math in my head, I'll probably
that was
make
his
a mistake.
opportunity cost, Chuck.
That's right. That's right. And the opportunity. So you're losing as an employer if you don't have this culture, if you don't have this transparency. You're losing these opportunities for your sales to be going out and hitting it for as many hours a day as they can.
And even to add to your point, Chuck, to even clarify that even further, the company loses anywhere between 8 or 9 times more than the rep does. So that
Absolutely.
$24,000 in selling time,
That's
the rep
right.
would the rep would get $2,400 on that.
That's right.
The company would get what, 21,600.
Hmm.
Right? Did I do my math right? Yeah. So I mean, everyone wins with pay transparency, both
Absolutely.
the bottom line money, morale, motivation, trust, and wanting to put that extra effort in the future.
And I think the thing that I love about this discussion more than anything is that it's less about dollars and it's less about legal action. It's more about culture. It's more about loyalty. It's more about cooperation and avoiding attrition in this long-term relationship and being the kind of people, because after all, companies are made up of people, regardless of their legal status, being the kind of people that we were all taught to be, or we should have all been taught to be for darn sure. And that's really what it's about. And I love that the conversation is really about that. That's what TruCommish is.
Yep.
Everyone wins with pay transparency. Oh, I can't even speak. Everyone wins with pay transparency, but it's not just about the numbers. The numbers are a symptom. The numbers are a symptom of something much greater. And when you have that amazing culture, people beat down your doors to come work for you.
Yep, I
And
agree.
isn't
I
that
think it's
really
beyond
what you
culture,
want?
Chuck. I mean, I think it goes beyond the individual company.
It
I
sure
think it's a
does.
societal issue.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's an issue about humanity.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's about mutual respect and mutual trust,
Mm-hmm.
and looking at everybody as equals.
Mm-hmm.
I think there's been a lot of changes in society that have taken place over the last 3 or 4 or 5 years.
Mm-hmm.
With the demand for transparency with policing and body cams
Mm-hmm.
has led to the Black Lives Matter movement
Mm-hmm.
and the demand for equality. People are no longer willing to put up with the bullying and intimidation tactics like the
Mm-hmm.
Harvey Weinsteins of the world have done that have led to the Me Too movement.
Mm-hmm.
There's been a drastic change of views of employees. That life is short. That the pandemic has taught us.
Mm-hmm.
There's been the Great Resignation, the demand for remote work. Quiet quitting. All these things are happening. I can't even tell you the droves of people in their late 20s and early 30s and mid 30s that are leaving corporate America forever because their trust has been broken. They've lost out on hundreds of thousands of dollars of earned but unpaid commissions. And they've been lied to and mistreated after being loyal soldiers and have put themselves out for their company for years and years and years. And the trust is broken. They'll never go back to work for someone themselves or work in corporate America. Corporate America is losing out on 30, 35 years of work that these employees would continue to do, but for this bad behavior and the changes that are taking place in society.
Mm-hmm.
I believe that America is in for a rude awakening 5 or 10 years from now when we don't have the qualified, trained professional people to do these jobs because they're so fed up with corporate America and they're doing their own side hustles and creating their own income streams.
Mm-hmm. Well, and it all comes back to, there's all these kinds of conversations. They go in all kinds of different ways. They have spider legs and octopus tentacles and all different things, but it all comes back. You said the magic word, probably my favorite word in all of language, however it's said, pronounced, but that is respect. It's not treating people the way they wish to be treated. It's treating people the way you wish to be treated. When you really think about it from that perspective, it can really, truly change your life. That is my number one rule for life. I wish I could pull it off 100%. Unfortunately, for myself, my wife, my family, and all of society, I am human, so I do fail. But if you follow that golden rule, treat others with respect, treat them the way you would wish to be treated, all of that can solve itself. And I think right back to TruCommish, right back to organization, right back to culture, right back to leadership, right back to sales management, that is exactly where it stems from.
So I just want to add on to that point for a quick second, Chuck. I think that the mentality. So, I was growing up in the 70s and 80s, and life was very competitive, and the mentality was someone wins and someone loses. Greed is good. Remember Wall Street way back then, right?
Yeah.
The movie Michael
Oh,
Douglas. Yeah. So the mentality, for some reason, and it's being applied to corporate America and around comp and sales pay and sales folks, is that it has to be a win-lose in order for you to win. Why can't it be a win-win? Why can't we both win?
Mm-hmm.
You know, and that absolutely can be the place. I mean, I did a post a few weeks ago about a rep who was about to close a $10 million deal with a publicly traded internet networking company
Mm-hmm.
that already had an existing contract with his firm,
Mm-hmm.
and it was $1 million commission that was going to be paid out on this.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, the company fired this guy just before it was about to close because it was basically a done deal to avoid paying the commission. The vendor, the customer found out and canceled the $10 million deal.
Oh.
More than within 3 weeks, 25% of the workforce of his company was laid off because they were counting on that $10 million deal. And the company did it because of ego, that they couldn't allow that to write that check for $1 million to that rep. And because of that, he basically blew up his whole company. And this is what I'm talking about, a win-win. Wouldn't it have been a win-win for that CEO to write that $1 million check? Shouldn't he have called a company-wide meeting and have some pizzas and beers and celebrate that rep and the $10 million that's been brought into this company? How motivating would that have been for every other rep and employee in that company?
Mm-hmm.
Instead, a quarter of the company doesn't have a job anymore.
But you know what? Honestly, mic drop. If my mic weren't attached to this stand, I'd drop it. It's worth it just to tell and hear that story. Wow, I'm blown away. Dan, do you have any closing thoughts for our folks? Or have you just pretty much said it all?
I mean, I can kind of summarize and repeat what I said. I mean, this is a lifelong passion of mine. I've been doing this for 25, 30 years, being the advocate for the individual rep in every setting, helping them identify pay errors, coaching them on. I mean, I can't tell you the number of reps that have been so beaten down and verbally and mentally abused by their employer that I've spoken to over the last several months. Right now, I'm in addition to helping reps with commission pay and with TruCommish, I'm helping reps in a number of other areas. I mean, it's really tough out there right now. Layoffs are happening left and right. People don't understand their rights. Just like I am with TruCommish, I encourage them to stand up for themselves, to not have regrets, to fight for what's theirs, fight for their commission pay. Understand your rights. Severances can be negotiated. Interpret what a PIP really means, and if you really have an opportunity to turn things around. Review your employment contract. I can't even tell you the amount of really bright people that are earning $400,000 a year that blindly sign their employment agreement, and then when they're being let go, they're like, "Oh my God, look at all these restrictions that have been placed."
Mm-hmm.
When you get offered a job, you now have the job offer. Turn around and interview the company, interview the leadership, see if you really want to work there, see if you trust them, ask them challenging questions that you wouldn't have asked if you didn't have the offer in place, right? Get the new comp plan, load it into TruCommish, compare the comp plan of where you're going to where you're leaving from, and see if the grass is really greener before you leave, right? So these are all things that I want to recommend to folks. Demand transparency, don't have regrets, stand up for yourself, question things, and make sure you get what's yours.
Fantastic. Well, you've said everything that can possibly be said. I am so grateful for your time. Dan, thank you for joining me on this early morning. I'm really, this has just been a blast. I've, like I said, still enjoyed every single second that we've had the opportunity to speak together. It's been so much fun. You certainly know your stuff. And folks, if you want to connect to Dan, if you want to follow Dan, you want to learn about TruCommish, everything you need to know is going to be in the show notes. His name is Dan Goodman for TruCommish, TruCommish. I'm Chuck for the Revenue Fuel Podcast. Follow us, keep up with the episodes, and stay tuned for more for the Dreamers, Innovators, Rebels, and Trailblazers, and more. Take care.
Thank you, Chuck.
Thanks, Dan.